everybody. Today I'm joined by Susie Benzaquen. Susie lives in Kochav Yaakov. She made Aliyah just over 15 years ago. She is the mommy of 8 and Savta of 3 so far, Baruch Hashem. She's a senior reflexologist, also known as a reflexologist, reflexolog, probably, right, Susie? That's in Hebrew?
Reflexologit Bachir.
Reflexologit Bachir. In her reflexology practice, she treats many pregnant women and those who hope to get pregnant, and also postnatal. As she grows her business to include doula and childbirth education, she sees herself specializing in the area of reproductive reflexology. In her personal life, she spent many years struggling to become pregnant and to stay pregnant. So she's especially drawn to this specialty. Hi, Susie. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Tzvi.
So, if you can tell us, before we get started with reflexology, I'd love to hear a little bit about what drew you to get started in reflexology. How did you end up doing this?
It's taken years. It's really interesting. When I was a teenager in the States, we had visitors from Israel, and the girl mentioned that her mother was a reflexologist. At that time, I had no idea what that was, but I just kind of filed it away in my brain. I've always had the belief that Hashem gave us in this world ways of healing ourselves, and one day, I just don't even know. It was just kind of floating around in my brain for a long time. One day I did a search online to see if there was even a possibility to learn in English. Although I'd been here for many years, I still felt that my mother tongue being English, it would be easier for me to study in English. And I found the school where I ended up learning. And I don't regret a minute of it, because once I started, I knew that it was the right match, it was the right shidduch, it was the right direction for me, something I was searching for.
Well, how long does it take to learn to be a reflexologist or reflexologit bachir, as you are?
Well, you can practice reflexology after a year of study. You're certified after 1 year. I did a full 2-year course, and we also have stage connected with each year. Each year you have to do 14 hours of stage.
Oh, wow. Wow, it's really, really interesting. So can you tell us what reflexology is? I have had reflexology treatments and I loved it, but I'm not sure that everybody knows. And I bet even with the few treatments I have, I bet there's a whole world of reflexology that I don't know anything about. So I'd love to hear about
that. Reflexology is a complementary medicine where we manipulate different points on people's feet. It's like it feels like at the least it's a really good foot massage. Generally, I work 40 to 50 minutes on a client, children shorter amounts of time, but we learn certain mapping on the bottom of the feet that allows us to create pathways and energy healing in those areas of the body. And often when people are experiencing some type of illness, it's because there's something stuck and there's not enough balance in certain areas. So we create that balance. Our whole the whole thought behind it is creating a homeostasis, which is balance within your system. If one part of your if one system is off, generally another system in your body needs to work too hard in order to compensate for that and keep us healthy. So we try to keep everybody healthy by keeping those areas balanced.
Wow. So I know acupuncture also works with, right, the flow of the body. So you're saying that the same way that our whole body has a map, just the bottom of our feet has a map, and by massaging it, you can help things to move along?
Correct. In Chinese medicine, they also work along with meridians, which there is some elements of that in reflexology, but not as much as acupuncture. Basically, in reflexology, we are creating this balance of energy throughout the body so that we have good flow, good circulation, and we do concentrate on certain areas like, for instance, shiatsu is energy points similar to acupuncture, but they're really more acupressure points. And we use some elements of that as well in reflexology.
on the bottom of the foot, or you're touching different parts of the body?
Generally the bottom of the foot. And we do have learned points that are a little bit further up on the leg, and there are some pressure points that we use on the hands.
Oh, interesting. Now, is it painful at all? Like for example, I'm comparing to acupuncture, where there is sometimes a little bit of pain. Is there pain with reflexology?
I've had some clients experience discomfort in certain areas as I'm pressing on them. For me, the feedback that I get when that happens is that's generally a place where I need to work more. In reflexology, it does not matter how soft or how gentle or how hard we do work on a specific area. It's because it's energy healing. I could really just work very gently if somebody has a sensitive area, but that the pain sometimes gives me an indication that there is something there that I need to be working on.
So you're massaging the bottom of the foot, and a part might be tender, and you'd more delicately, just gently work over that spot so it wouldn't hurt, but you're working through this spot that you're saying is stuck, the energy stuck there.
Exactly.
Wow, very interesting. Okay. So, I also wanted to know, so acupuncture is Chinese medicine. Where does reflexology come from?
It's a little bit of a mixture. There is some Indian medicine, some Chinese medicine. I made very sure to be learning in a religious environment, in an Orthodox environment, so that we really are drawing on a lot of, it draws on a lot of spiritual side of healing. So for me, I really look at this and say, this is really more of how maybe, you know, in ancient times, the Jews would heal themselves through elements like this. Not that that's where the makor necessarily is as far as teaching this, but for me, I like to associate it with, you know, pre-antibiotic time, pre-medicine and, you know, quick fix type of time. There was that element of this knowledge. A lot of it did begin, the formal practice of reflexology really did begin in Europe.
Really?
So, yeah.
I have two thoughts on that. One is that before we became so modern, people were walking on leather, or they were walking without shoes or thin soles. So maybe their feet were getting massaged and more naturally, right?
Well, there are certain tipulim, there are certain exercises that we do give people as far as healing them, that we will tell them, walk on dirt, walk on sand. There are people that be more grounded in what we call their earth element. And those people, we would definitely tell them to walk barefoot as much as possible and to help give them that balance in that way. So you're correct.
I've done that. I've done grounding, right? Where you take off your shoes and you just walk on the earth and you connect your energy. Is that connected to reflexology? I didn't know that.
Yes, I mean, it's connected to a lot of Chinese medicine, because we, in addition to the actual physical symptoms and the systems that we work with along with the body, there is a spiritual side to it, and the spiritual side being according to elements, and which elements are more dominant in our body. Like there's earth, there's water, there's fire, and there's air, and how each of us work through those elements and use those elements in our daily life. So we try to give people a better understanding of themselves. There's no right or wrong way how to deal with it. It's more about just having that knowledge that, gee, I'm more of a fire person, and I need to try to balance that out a little bit with my earth element. And we just give them tips on how to do that. A deep understanding of ourselves is what really heals us.
Yeah, wow. So the other thing I was thinking of when you mentioned about the Chinese medicine and Torah and everything. So years ago, when I was in midwifery school, we also had a time where we learned a little bit about shiatsu, as you're saying, a little bit about different things. They brought in practitioners, and we'd have one intense day during the semester where we learned about just a whole bunch of different complementary medicines. And thoughts of healing. So the lady who came in and taught us about Chinese medicine was not Jewish. This was not a Jewish school. This is in Florida. And she says, you know, there's the Bible. Everyone's heard of the Bible. And there's Abraham. And it says that Abraham had sons and he sent them to the east with presents. This lady was like totally not Jewish is telling us.
Mm-hmm.
And that their Masorah from the Chinese medicine, and she had actually like learned in China. She was really a big person in this. That their Masorah is that the Chinese medicine is the gifts that Abraham gave to his further sons before he sent them off. So it's like, I heard from the Goyish lady.
I definitely believe that there are just these gifts that Hashem gave us in this world, and as we became further and further away from having that, deep connection of what we need and who we are, and when society has now kind of shifted our thinking, we've lost a lot of these gifts, and we've lost a lot of the understanding and knowledge, and even the self-knowledge that helps us figure out, what do I really need? What am I really feeling? How can I help myself? And reflexology, and for me, the learning of the reflexology has gotten me much better in touch with those kind of, more sensitive to it and more in touch with it. My husband's family's Moroccan. And he remembers that he had an awful headache and his grandmother just yanked on his ear and she knew where to press and knew where to touch, and his headache went away. So these are things that have been in our culture many, many, many years ago, of what to do and how to do it. And I think over the years they've been lost because we're a quick fix kind of society. That's another aspect of reflexology. You may feel really good when you leave, or you may feel a little bit, your symptoms may be a little bit worse when you leave a session, because you need to give it time to work. One session will feel good. It's like one of the best foot massages you will ever get. But as far as healing specific issues, usually takes more than one session. And in our society, we're very quick fix. We want something that will give us that quick fix. Let me take a pill. Let me be on an antibiotic for a week, whatever it is. When you go to a reflexologist, I think the understanding has to be that this is a talich. This is a process, and it's a process also of the practitioner giving and getting the feedback from you of what felt good afterwards, how you felt a day or two later, and then kind of adjusting the treatment that way.
Wow, that is very interesting. Because I did that. I only went for one treatment. I went a couple times, but years in between.
Mm-hmm.
And I either thought to myself, oh, this person's good, or that person wasn't so good, whether I felt differently. But what you're saying is that it might have had to do with the reason that I was going for, nothing to do with the practitioner themselves.
Right. A lot will depend whether it is an acute problem, or acute meaning that it's a quick onset, you're feeling stuffy, you have a backache or whatever, something that's more acute, quick onset for the moment, or something that you've been struggling with for a long time, something more chronic. If you have chronic back pain, you will need several more sessions. If it's something acute, like I have a head cold this week, and it may help you even within the first session. It'll help clear the sinuses, it'll help your respiratory, it'll help your breathing. But if you're dealing with something that's chronic, it does take time to work on. I've dealt with people who were struggling with infertility, and it could take several months. Often by the time somebody is seeking treatment because they want to get pregnant, their anxiety level is also elevated, and they want to be pregnant that next month.
Sure.
So you have to know, if this is something you're going to do, it will be more natural. It will be your body's way of healing and your body's way of taking care of an issue, but it takes time. It's not a quick fix.
It reminds me, I guess, sort of like packing a bag. So you put in the problem, and then you have all the layers of time and other things over it and stress. So it sounds like you have to kind of unpack the bag layer by layer.
Yes, and also because our bodies, are used to working a certain way. If something's not balanced, it's not like, sometimes you'll go to a chiropractor and do a quick click here and click there, and oh wow, my back feels much better. That doesn't mean that in 2 or 3 days later, your back is going to now go back into the same position it was prior to that adjustment. It just means right now you got the relief you needed. So although I do have clients who will tell me that they feel better the next day, sometimes I'll even hear, wow, I felt so tired. I have one client who, she'll come and then she'll wait another month or two and then call me again. And she doesn't come on a regular basis. And she said to me once, I was nervous to come because every time I come, I feel like I have like a runny nose the next day, and my eyes are watery. And I explained to her, and if you came week after week, then I'd have a chance to really work on those symptoms or what's bringing that on. Her release and her runny nose and her drippy eyes and her kind of feeling a little bit stomach upset or nausea after a treatment is really a good sign, but you don't realize it until you get to the end. She, at that point, when she was feeling these symptoms, she would stop and then she'd say, okay, fine, I think I need it again, and call me a month later. But if she came week after week, we'd have an opportunity to work on what the underlying problem is. That was, and the response that her body was giving of her feeling a little bit draggy or runny nose and things the next day was really a release of a lot of what she's been holding back.
So that was
And
her own body.
it's a positive response. It's not a negative response.
So that was, not everyone's going to feel that kind of symptoms, but that was her personal body's way of letting things go.
Correct. That was her personal experience.
So she kind of let it go and then held it back and let it go. Right. So she wasn't really.
Right. She was never taking care of the underlying issue. Mm-hmm. She was really, kind of, when she would get to a certain point, she would complain of a headache, for instance. I would work on her, and I realized it was more of a sinus and a respiratory kind of issue. So then the next day when she'd have a runny nose, to me, I'm like, great, this is a great sign, because it shows that there's some movement as opposed to everything being stuffed in her head.
Right, her sinuses were flowing.
Like, oh, but now I'm sick again, But she didn't realize that sickness was there. It was just held in her head, and it needed a place to release. So I allowed the opening for it to release, which is a positive sign, rather than a negative.
Oh, wow. So now I want to go over little tips, just a little bit, because obviously we don't have time to grab everyone's feet and get it through the internet and give them all massages on their feet. So we're going to talk about how can we help women who either want to get pregnant, who are pregnant. Maybe there's something to do while you're giving birth or postpartum, those 4 areas. What could someone learn from reflexology that maybe they can do at home a little bit, and then what's the benefit of coming in for a treatment? How can that be helped?
Okay, first off, if you are pregnant or suspect you're pregnant, you really need to go to an experienced and qualified practitioner. Because there are certain areas, especially in the beginning of pregnancy, that are more sensitive. I personally do not feel that a reflexologist can do any harm, except that there are certain areas that in the beginning of the pregnancy, the whole reproductive area, that are more sensitive. You need to be aware and careful and know what you're doing. So that's a disclaimer, as far as, making sure that you're going to somebody qualified and has experience.
And then also saying to them, I think I might be pregnant, so that they know.
Correct. Anything that you say, you have to have a reflexologist also that you feel comfortable with. Not every shidduch is the right shidduch. It has to be the right person. It has to be the right shaliach for you. It has to be somebody that you feel is going to hold your confidences, because I just had an experience yesterday. I was actually tagging along with a friend of mine. She wanted some advice. She was doing some reflexology, and the woman just started opening up and opening up and opening up from an emotional standpoint. And you have to be able to listen, and it needs to be a safe place for that person to be able to share some of their feelings. When we're working on your physical and your spiritual have a very, very close connection, closer than most people like to admit. And we're working on somebody's physical pain, but we also take into consideration that a lot of physical pain is connected to emotional distress. And often when we're working those areas, people feel a need to talk.
Okay, so when I'm looking for a practitioner, I want to find someone that I do feel comfortable with opening up in case I'm feeling emotional. You're saying during the treatment, I want to. I as a client want to have a safe space, right? I think
100%.
one of the treatments that I mentioned that I went through over the years was with this woman who I did not feel safe with at all. She was just someone through the Kupat Cholim, through the health insurance, and I went for it, and I felt it did nothing. So maybe that's the reason, because I wasn't letting anything flow with her at all.
Right. So there needs to be a mutual kind of respect. The practitioner needs to create a space that the client feels comfortable, and there needs to be a connection. There needs to be a connection because we're dealing with energy, and you need to be able to feel vulnerable if you feel like being vulnerable. You need to be able to share personal information about things that you normally wouldn't share with other people. You might only share with your doctor, you know. So yeah, so you need to have that right shidduch of a practitioner and client.
Okay, so now we're going to start from stage one. Let's say somebody is trying to get pregnant.
Right.
Two questions. One, how can reflexology help them if they're coming in for treatment? And two, is there anything that they can do at home by themselves that could also possibly help them?
Okay, so prior to getting pregnant, we want to make sure that our bodies are balanced in general. Even just somebody who is not struggling with fertility issues, but even somebody just looking, I'm in a fertile stage. I want to be able to have the best possible outcome. We help them in general health, feeling balanced, feeling relaxed, less anxiety, etc. Beyond that, reflexology is very effective when dealing with hormones and hormonal imbalances and things of that nature. So, anyone who's having issues like that, it is helpful. In addition to being a reflexologist, I'm also an aromatherapist. So based on what my client needs, I will mix an oil that is conducive to what stage they're in or what they're looking for. So there are certain essential oils that are known to be very beneficial. And we have other tips along the way. Once we do have a client and we're working with them, we can show them certain areas that would be helpful to do manipulation on a more frequent basis than once a week that they would come in for a treatment.
So is there a spot on the foot that someone could massage on their own, or should they like go out and walk on rocks? Or is there anything that someone can do just on their own for, even though you've never met them before?
There are, but it would be a little difficult for me to show you here. There are certain areas of the foot, the reproductive areas, that I do show my clients what to manipulate in the times that we're, during the week that we don't see each other. We usually see each other. I see a client once a week. So the days that we don't see each other, I do show them and give them certain tips of things that they can do. It would be a little difficult to show it in this environment, but there definitely are. Again, there are people who are being held back from getting pregnant for emotional reasons. Either they're anxious and that's messing with their cycles or making it difficult. There's one client that I'm dealing with that her relationship with her mother and her formative years were very difficult for her. So we work on her stability and on her earth element, which will help her feel more stable and more nurturing. So there are things from the emotional standpoint, there are emotional things from the physical reproductive system that we do work on.
So you're saying each person has obviously a different reason of why they're not able to get pregnant. So depending on that person, what they need could be completely opposite.
It'll probably have a general core similarities. We will definitely be working more on the reproductive, and we'll help make sure their immune system's in check and things of that nature. And then there's the emotional side where everyone else has their concerns or issues, and we try to work on that as well.
Okay. Now, what during pregnancy, the same thing. What can someone benefit from a treatment, and is there anything that they can do on their own?
Again, the same type of thing. Usually people in the beginning of pregnancy, there are certain issues that are disturbing or difficult for them. Sometimes people are anxious and aren't able to sleep well. So reflexology will help with that. I have clients who have difficulty with their sinuses and will get headaches because their sinuses are, engorged and, and enlarged during that time, and will have more headaches. So we definitely work on the respiratory system and on the sinuses and things of that nature. And I have a lot of clients who have gastro issues and are feeling nausea. So again, there could be a million reasons why somebody's nauseous. Yes, your hormones are kind of out of whack, and that's creating havoc for you. But sometimes anxiety and the lack of sleep also lend to that feeling of nausea or upset stomach. There are certain foods they're not eating what they normally eat, or smells that bother them. So we have a lot of success working with both hormonal issues, respiratory issues, more than both, but hormonal issues, respiratory issues, gastro issues. We have a lot of successes in those areas, and those are things that are disruptive to somebody in the beginning of pregnancy. As pregnancy, develops.
That all these different things can be helped by a foot massage. That's just amazing.
Yeah, but it does. It really does. And I always tell people, at the very least, a busy mom or a woman who's had difficulty, finding her right space to relax, is resting for a good 40 to 50 minutes while somebody is giving her that touch therapy. Touch therapy is so important and so vital to our lives. And people don't understand how important touch actually is and how it could really affect our lives. People who are in touch, often get illnesses more often, and have difficulty getting past certain emotional issues, because if I see that when I'm speaking to one of my children, I put my arm on their shoulder even, or look them straight in the eye and touch their face for a moment. And it's such a different response than if I were just having a conversation, sitting across the table from them. It makes a huge difference.
I agree.
Touch is very important to all of us at every stage of life.
Right. So what you're saying is, even if you got nothing else, which it won't happen, but even if you got nothing else, a 40-minute quiet, relaxed foot massage out of your busy day is amazing. Right. Wow.
Right. And honestly, we hold so much, our feet hold us up,
Right.
physically and, metaphysically. They hold us up, we have all of this stress and pressure. Where does it go? It goes down to our feet. And when your feet are not feeling well, you feel your whole body is off.
Oh, yeah.
So it does give them that, it helps with their circulation in addition, and circulation helps us clean out any, infection and things like that in our blood as well. And we help boost the immune system. There's a million benefits. It's hard to pinpoint, but if we're trying to speak about the woman specifically in the beginning of her pregnancy, I really concentrate on respiratory. I pretty much stay away from reproductive at that point. It's a sensitive area for her. I concentrate more on respiratory. The more oxygen in her blood, the easier it is for her to breathe, the easier it is for her to sleep, etc. And gastro. Gastro is very, the gastric tract is very important in somebody in the beginning of their pregnancy. Make sure that they're eating healthy and making sure that they're feeling stable in that area. So we try to strengthen those two areas as much as possible.
That sounds delightful. I'm already thinking, when can I schedule an appointment? This sounds so good. So what about late pregnancy? What's the difference? What would you do differently?
Okay. So mid-pregnancy, most women are feeling pretty good. Second trimester women are usually feeling pretty good. Again, it does, especially depending on what their family situation is. If they have a lot going on in their life, they may need that extra help with relaxation. If they have young children around, we try to keep their immune system healthy so that they're not catching any of the colds their kids are bringing home from Ghana, etc. So we're working more on things like that, and also circulation. Depending on, also, some women have difficulty with circulation or their veins or things of that nature. So you need to go to somebody who's qualified and understands how to deal with these issues. There's certain areas that are very important for us, to be specifically sensitive to in a pregnant woman, especially if we're dealing with varicose veins or things of that nature. And in the later pregnancy, and actually throughout, because I try to give a general T-pool in any case throughout, except for certain areas, we work mostly on skeletal, lower back, helping them loosen and at the same time strengthen. When I say loosen, I don't mean that the cervical area and everything should be loose. It's more like making sure that it's toned and it's able to they're able to relax in those areas, and also to help with their stress and anxiety. Coming to the end of the pregnancy can be difficult emotionally for people. Some of their fears of childbirth will start, creeping in, and part of our T-pool is really to help them feel relaxed, confident. It's very important that a woman who's entering the final stages of pregnancy and labor feels confident in her own body, that her body's going to be able to do the work that it needs to, coming up.
So you're saying that not only can you help prepare emotionally for birth, but you can also help to strengthen the uterus and the cervix through the reflexology?
Correct.
And varicose veins and all the other millions of things that we talked about. This is amazing. Okay, great. Now,
then coming up to the point of the end of the real end of the pregnancy, their due date and things like that, there are certain things that we do to help prepare somebody for that time, and that's where more with the reproductive areas come back in, as far as helping them prepare those areas, make sure there's enough sufficient blood flow in those areas, etc. Prepare for birth.
wow. And again, I'm going to go back to this. Is there anything, if somebody's not able to get to a practitioner, is there anything that she can do on her own? The answer might be no, but I always like to ask.
Look, anyone can find anything online nowadays, as far as if somebody wants to go to YouTube and they want to, but it's really hard to work on your own feet. That's number one. I mean, I know that if I don't have a reflexology session from a friend, it's very difficult for me to just sit there and try to work on my feet. The best position for us to work in is when someone is laying down. And I mean, we do adjust. Somebody's pregnant, someone has a back issue, and we know different positions that are more helpful to work on somebody. So we like to work when somebody is in more of a laying down position along their meridians. Their body is more relaxed. I know that I've tried to work on myself, sitting up, trying to curl my foot up in order for me to manipulate it is not the best position to be working on somebody. If there are certain
even you, who where everything is, even you don't give yourself treatment.
Part of the treatment is the relaxation. The
that
fact that you're
flow.
Yeah, number one for the flow, and number two, it's just you want to put your body in the most relaxed state that you can, where sitting up, curling your foot up, trying to manipulate a certain area is not necessarily going to give you that relaxed feeling. I can show
not quite
exactly.
so relaxed. Okay.
Can I show a husband and a wife team, you know what, her back is bothering her, here's an area to work on? I certainly can. And people do it at home. It's not that they you don't do it at home. It's not like nothing will happen. You're not going to harm yourself. But if you're
dangerous, if I Google search and I go to YouTube and I get my husband or get my feet into a funny position, nothing bad will happen. At the worst, it just won't be effective.
Correct. It is more effective in a more a certain relaxed environment, and rubbing your own feet is not necessarily. I know if there's certain, if I have a head cold or whatever, there are certain areas I'll manipulate myself. Do I get the same results as going to a practitioner and then working on me and me just being able to relax? Absolutely not.
Got it. Okay, now during childbirth itself.
Yes.
Can reflexology do anything during childbirth?
Yes, except for the fact that there are not that many women, let's say during a contraction, that are happy to be laying there with her foot being rubbed. It's not going to be that. It's it doesn't have the same effect. During early stages of labor, not a problem. You know, a woman feels a little uncomfortable, you stop for a few moments. There are certain areas that we can manipulate that actually help encourage contractions. So I've had clients at their end stages of pregnancy that were, you know, within 24 hours of you know, their due date. There are certain areas I'd work on. As I'm working on them, I have another contraction, I feel it. As I'm pressing certain areas, the contractions will continue. And we want to encourage good long contractions during that period. So yeah, so that's like, you know, the first stage of labor, no problem. And it is very helpful and very, you know, it really helps the client, both in the relaxation and the fact that they have that touch going on, etc. Active labor, not that much.
Also, childbirth itself, like going into labor, sometimes we have emotional blockages, right? So just getting all that stuff out, maybe having a good cry if you need to or something, that alone can make everything flow, right?
Right. Look, I've had clients that have come to me for a session at the end of their pregnancy and delivered within a few hours of leaving my home. That's where I did the treatment. Within a few hours of leaving my home, went into labor, had a baby.
Wow.
I have another client that literally, I worked on her every week, the last few weeks of her pregnancy, every week, 3-4 times, and she still didn't go into labor. And she told me afterwards that it was right before Pesach, and she was nervous who was going to take care of her children. So from the emotional standpoint, she was blocking herself from really going into labor at that point. I could have worked on her feet forever, but really the emotions were kind of holding her back. And it was almost, it was more than subconscious. She consciously knew that she was kind of working against the treatment instead of kind of just relaxing and letting things happen. I don't believe reflexologists put people into labor. I know there are certain reflexologists that will claim, oh, I'll come over and I'll help induce you. I don't believe in that. I believe that a baby's going to come when the baby's going to come. I do believe, though, that, like you said, emotionally, many women hold themselves back or have some anxieties that prevent them from naturally going into labor. Even just the pain, you know, you feel a contraction, our first instinct is to, you know, to tighten up, you know, to fight that pain. And with reflexology, what we do is we allow you to relax and we allow you to have the peace of mind and help your body work the way it knows how. You know, we know how to have babies. Our bodies know what to do. It's just a matter of the reflexology at the end of pregnancy, in my opinion, relaxes us, helps our body get into the right place so that we can deliver in the right time. Hashem decides when the baby's born, not us.
So if someone's overdue, like I was 2 weeks early with one of my babies, but I was almost 2 weeks late with one of my babies. And I was getting to a point where I was potentially facing having an induction if I didn't go into labor soon enough. So at that point, it certainly sounds like it's definitely worth trying reflexology.
I would definitely try it. And I think at the end of pregnancy, especially when women are having difficulty getting comfortable and relaxing and things like that, it's a very healthy way to kind of segue into that labor mode, from pregnancy mode to labor mode. In the same token, I don't like the claims that some reflexologists make that, oh, come to me, I'll press a few points and you're going to go into labor, because it doesn't work that way. I really feel that the client has to partner with us, has to be ready at the right time, and we can help with a lot of the anxiety and the stress and the pain that prevent women from just kind of letting their bodies do what it needs to do. So it helps, but I don't like the claims that I'll induce you, because if the baby's not ready, the baby's not going to come, no matter how many times you go to the reflexologist.
Right. And postpartum.
Yes.
What do you do postpartum?
Postpartum, again, there are certain areas that would be obviously very sensitive to a woman. Women have a lot of anxiety and stress postpartum, as far as feeling confident in being a good mother. We can help with milk production, with relaxation. A relaxed, happy mother is going to nurse better, is going to care for herself better, is going to be able to get back to herself easier. We definitely help with circulation, keeping her immune system boosted, and back issues, really anything that can come up postpartum. I believe that we can help with. We can help the body heal quicker.
Amazing. Do you do reflexology on newborn babies?
It can be done on newborn babies. It's not a problem to do it. I personally have not done newborns, but I've done infants. I've worked with infants. I look forward to working on newborns too, but at this point, I've really just worked with infants. You only work for a few moments. What I like about working with young children is we could just show the mom. There's really only certain areas I would work on in a child. Basically, we want to make sure that their ears, kids are constantly getting ear infections. So that's a popular one. We have sometimes newborns are born with clogged tear ducts.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certain reflexology points that can help with that. Especially babies that if they're laying down nursing, often they will get fluid in their ears, so we can help with that. And gastro, that's really the only thing I would work on with babies. Maybe boosting their immune system, keeping them general health, but you're not talking about skeletal issues, you're not talking about reproductive issues, you're not talking about heart and circulation issues that much. Unless there's a specific...
Jaundice, like if you're waiting for the Brit Milah and the baby's
Right.
yellow, can reflexology help with that?
There are points with the liver. It depends why the jaundice.
So that's like getting the flow of the bilirubin foods to leave
Right.
the body. That's a flow thing.
Yes. Right. And also if we work on the gastro, because the baby has to really, kind of metabolize everything and get it out of their body. So gastro, that's a good point. New marketing direction for me.
No, it's interesting because as a mom, you feel so helpless. I mean, they tell you to nurse as much as you can, and you're just giving birth yourself, and here you are trying desperately to give this baby everything they can get, and this is another, tool to have. Say, hey, I can bring the baby to a reflexologist, and maybe
with a newborn or young child. What's the easiest for me would be to show the mom certain points to work on while she's nursing the baby, while you're bathing the baby, just to kind of manipulate those points. Those are tools that we can give a new mom.
Wonderful.
She
So
has
you don't have to go back for many treatments. You could come in once if you have that same baby that I had that was born 11 days overdue. He was yellow, and I had to schlep in. I was living in a yeshuv in Yerushalaim and go to the special rabbi to look at him. And I would have loved to know. I actually know someone that was living in the area that's a reflexologist, but I didn't know she could do any of these things. While I was there, I could have taken him for a treatment, and then if she could have taught me what to do and to continue doing that at home without having to leave my bed again, that would be amazing.
Right. So in general, when working with small children, and they feel most comfortable sitting in their mom's lap, we'll work it that way. But I generally, with working, because a child's really can only handle maybe about 10 or 15 minutes, depending on their age. You can build upon it as they get used to the touch and the feel, etc. But especially for little babies, I really just kind of teach the moms what to do. In fact, I went, like the local clinic, Muhadet, near us, had a new mom's class, like a new mom's massage class. And I came and I showed them certain things in reflexology that they can do where the stomach is, especially for colicky babies. It was very helpful. It really was very helpful. And then these women had the tools that they can work, that when they're at home in a quiet place with their baby, often you bring a newborn baby in, the first thing they do is cry or want a nurse. So the best thing to do is for a mom to have these tools herself to be able to work with the baby.
Yeah, that's amazing. Maybe we'll be able to do a Geula Mamas new baby massage reflexology class one day. That would be so good. Okay, great. So Susie, you work out of Kochav Yaakov, and do people You also you go to the house in Yerushalaim, or you have a clinic?
So far in Yerushalaim, I've been going to people's houses. I'm working on getting a clinic together here.
Amazing. And you're going to give me the information of how people can get in touch with you, and I'll put that in the show notes. Okay?
Excellent.
And before we finish up, I have a question for you. Okay? So, my favorite question. I want you, Susie, to close your eyes and breathe deeply. And imagine that you are standing, I think I'll just go with this metaphor I keep using, standing at Har Sinai, and you're addressing all the women on like the side of the women's side of Har Sinai. So you have all the women of Am Yisrael are spread out in front of you. And you have one thing that you can tell them right now, to all the women of Am Yisrael, from Susie Benzaquen. What would that be?
I think listen to your inner voice.
Listen to your inner voice. That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. We're going to have to make a Susie Benzaquen magnet, listen to your inner voice, because we have some other fantastic magnets here from, let's see. All right. So we've got, I'm very into my magnets here. They make me happy. Okay. So we have a Geula Mamas magnet. It says, watch me bring the Geula. And last time I mentioned that it kind of has two reasons. One is people always say, oh, what you're doing, you think it's such a big deal. But really it is. If I'm washing my dishes, or I'm going to my children's parent-teacher conference, that's my mitzvah in the moment. And that brings the Geula. And just by connecting, you know how they say that if you walk in Eretz Yisrael, every whatever it is, I don't remember how many steps is a mitzvah, but only from what I've heard, only when you're thinking about it is a mitzvah. When someone's just walking around, or we're just doing the things we're doing, we're not always plugging in. So this magnet here is just to help you plug in and say, hey, the thing I'm already doing, that is my mitzvah. That is how I'm bringing the Geula. That is a very, very big deal. So this is the magnet, and this magnet is going out to Milka Grossman. Wait a minute. Got my pom-pom here. Yay, Milka! And I have another magnet. Okay, this is from our guest. Remember Ayelet Shwell, everybody? So her special thing to say was that you are so special, you should be heard. That is a magnet now, because that is worth remembering. And let's see who's getting that magnet. Let's see, 1 minute. Where did I think I lost our previous winner. It's good that I have it recorded, because I've lost her. It's okay, I'll find you, don't worry. All right, this one is going to Faggy Ettlinger. Yay, Faggy! Oh, there it was. It was in my pom-pom. Okay, great. And I have one more. Last week, we heard from, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, Tamara May. Tamara May said that she said, whatever you do, you should kegel. That is what every woman in Am Yisrael should be doing. They should be kegeling. This is your reminder. And this is going to Rivka Zlatkin. Yay, Rivka! Well done. Now, every Geula Mama who contacts Susie Benzaquen will receive, what will they receive, Susie?
50 shekel off your first session.
50 shekels off your first session just for mentioning Geula Mamas. Yay! All right. We are excited. We have learned a lot today, and we've given away gifts, which always makes me very happy. I guess that's it for today. That's a wrap. Please remember that I love you. Susie loves you. We all love you. We're here to help you. Mwah. Have a good day and be well. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.